Did you know that cruise ships offer unique itineraries in Japan that allow you to explore the country in an incredibly convenient way?
Imagine seeing more than 10 towns and cities in Japan while only unpacking once.
Tokyo is amazing, but you know what? You're going to miss out on 90% of what makes Japan special by only visiting there. We recently went on the Azamara Japanese intensive journey, and we're going to cover all the fantastic amenities and dining options, all the great things that we did, the cultural onboard activities, and really what you need to know whether you should book a cruise on Azamara, whether you should do a Japan intensive, and also if you should consider other country intensive cruises out there. Then I've got a very special extra we're going to share with you at the end of the video. And we found some amazing Japan intensive itineraries in 2025 and 2026, along with some pretty great deals. So let's talk about exploring Japan with Azamara. What for us was truly an unforgettable cruise experience. We left in April of 2024. And it was a 15-night cruise, and it showcased everything that Japan had to offer. But very, very subtle differences overall. You really won't have that different of an experience on any of the four ships. So always focus on Azamara, the itinerary first, and the deal that you can get. Don't worry about if you're on the onward, the journey, the pursuit, or the quest. It's not going to make a difference. One thing that's really special about taking an Azamara cruise is the fact that typically you're going to have 700 or fewer passengers. In this day and age of 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 passengers, that's a really nice benefit if you're looking for a smaller ship experience. So a lot is included with an Azamara cruise. We did another video. This time we were on the Azamara Onward, and we were in an Ireland intensive, and I'll put the link down below. You may want to check that out because the ship and the experience is very similar, but a lot is included. Your room, all of your entertainment, your food, all your meals. You've got two specialty restaurants on board. Those do have small fees, but they're pretty reasonable overall. You've got a dining room that has flexible dining hours, so you can go really anytime that you want to go. You've got a great buffet, which actually has a customized theme every single night. So despite the ship being small, you'll have plenty of dining options. They include beer and wine with your meals. Gratuities are included. It's super easy to get on and off the ship. If you're used to a big ship experience, forget all that. This is a completely different experience because you're going to be on and off the ship usually within a few minutes. So just no lines.
And what I love about getting into these small ports, well, you're getting into places that don't see a lot of cruise ships at all. That's a totally unique experience.
Yeah, Monica made a great point. We got to places that a lot of cruise ships don't get to. But the good news at the end of this, I'm going to share with you multiple different cruise ships and even cruise lines that you can replicate a very similar experience at different price points. And there's some really great values there coming up in 2025 and 2026. So make sure you stick for those offers as well. So we found some really good cruise deals for you as well. Just so you know, this is not a big ship experience. You're not going to have laser shows. You're not going to have Broadway style shows. Think everything minimized a little bit. But they do some pretty neat deck parties. They bring performers on board. So you get some really kind of unique experience that you may not have on many other cruise ships. All right. So we want to share with you some of our experience on this 15 nights Japan intensive cruise. We wanted to share with you where we went, what our highlights were, and really just would never want to miss about these truly iconic locations. There were some things that made this cruise also very special.
We had a Japan ambassador on board. So this is a person who could advise everybody on the next day's port, talk about places to go eat. She had a lot of recommendations for us and everything. So it really made it very special.
Yeah, it was fun because we would just show up at our desk. She had set hours. And instead of taking an expensive shore excursion, we can say, hey, we like really good food and these kind of sites. And so she would circle everything for us and make sure that we were going to the right places. We haven't had this before on other cruise ships, so that was a nice added bonus. And she lives in Japan.
Another thing they do is a destination lecture series. And there are some ships out there that have some cruise lines that have these lecture series. And this is a really great example of something Azamara does well. And they had this gentleman who is an Australian historian who specializes in Japanese history. And it was really very interesting.
Yeah, and it wasn't boring.
Boring.
When you hear lecture, I don't know, to me that sounds boring, but these were actually really good. And then, of course, they had a lot of cultural extras. We definitely had some pretty amazing shows and experiences. And when we got to port, when we left port, this is something that makes a Japanese cruise really unique and special. We've done over 45 cruises. We've never had one quite like this. At the very beginning, we started in Tokyo and we finished in Tokyo. So number one suggestion for sure is come in a few days early, or at the end of your cruise, leave a few days late. You do not want to miss Tokyo. It's an amazing city. We could have a whole video, multiple videos on Tokyo. Maybe we'll do one in the future. Give us a thumbs up on this video and we can share with you our top recommendations for Tokyo because we've gone multiple times, but absolutely spend a few days in Tokyo. We were kind of blessed because we came during cherry blossom season.
It's not guaranteed whenever you come, but during April, we got there just at the right time. And as you'll see throughout our 15-day cruise, in some places it was a little too early for the cherry blossoms, and in other places they were blooming. The good thing about doing a 2-week cruise in April is that you'll probably hit them somewhere along the way.
You can definitely be rest assured that we had plenty of ramen, udon noodles, sushi. I mean, we hit up all of our favorite food spots.
Our first stop was Aomori in the north. We saw Hirosaki Castle, which is a beautiful historical castle built in the 17th century. Another thing to know about Aomori is it is the apple capital of Japan, and this is where the Fuji apple comes from. One of the cultural extras that we got here in Aomori was getting to see some musicians play a local instrument called the shamisen. It's a 3-stringed musical instrument, and that was really neat.
And it was kind of cold when we got here, so the cherry blossoms hadn't yet started in this location. We had already seen them at the beginning in Tokyo, so we weren't sure we were going to see a lot of it as the cruise progressed, but boy did we, as you'll see in a moment. And I think in this one we also had a great apple pie at the end over near the cruise port. The ship also got some Aomori apples, and that night in the restaurant, they made apple pie for everybody with those local apples. Again, another really neat thing that Azamara does to kind of localize the experience. Our next place that we stopped was Akita. And Marnica, where did we go here? And what did we do?
Well, we went to have udon. So we had asked our Japan ambassador the night before where to go to get a type of udon that they're known for, the inaniwa udon, and she did not steer us wrong. Akita is most famous for Akita dogs, and we didn't see any, sadly, that day, but they're also famous for a type of udon noodle called the inaniwa udon. So that was a very enjoyable meal.
Yeah, a picture here obviously on the screen. It was pretty incredible overall. And one really nice thing, at least for right now, the dollar is very strong against the Japanese yen. So really everything that we ate at and purchased, etc., along the way was quite affordable, much more so than previous trips to Japan. So hopefully, fingers crossed, that will hold up over time. But this was a great meal. And I think we also walked through a really nice park there as well.
They have a lot of parks in every city in Japan. They're so beautiful.
You're going to notice as we go through this, we did a couple ship excursions, but we tried to avoid those mostly. One, they tend to be overpriced. Even though you're on a small ship, the nice thing is you're not stuck with hundreds of people. We're not huge on cruise ship excursions, except in some exceptions. We still take them on occasion. We like to kind of plan our own days, and I'll leave a video link down below where I show you how you can use actually ChatGPT and AI to really plan these perfect days for you, even if you don't have a Japanese ambassador on board. The next one we went to was Niigata.
Niigata.
Really nice little town. We, again, did a lot of walking here. You'll do a lot of walking in the cities and towns. You don't have to, but we like to do that. And you'll see there's a common theme here. We always seem to be seeking out food. So this time we sought out conveyor belt sushi, and we ate at a restaurant called Benkai. We waited a while. It was very...
One thing that was really cool about Niigata, and this goes to towns that aren't used to seeing a lot of cruise ships, they had students that would meet us at our bus when the shuttle took us to town and just start talking. They told us about their lives and they led us to where we were trying to go. And it was just a really kind of unique experience. The next stop was Kanazawa. It really blew us away. It was a really neat place. So we went to the famous Kenrokuen Gardens. This was where we first saw massive cherry blossoms. You come around the corner and they're everywhere. And we spent hours just walking around. People are dressed up and having their pictures made. You see people in kimonos, traditional outfits. It was just really special.
Yeah, this is a great stop. I mean, this was one of my favorite ports. Another thing that was really special about cruising in Japan and on a small ship was a lot of times at the dock, there were performers that were waiting for us when we got off the ship. We got a hero's welcome pretty much in every destination. And then a lot of times when we were leaving, there would be a show as we were starting to pull away.
We even had fireworks as we were leaving and they were all waving and you could tell they were really sad to see us go.
At least we want to believe that.
That's what we were sad to go for sure.
All right, so the next stop for us was Sakaya Minato.
That's close enough.
Okay, close enough.
Yeah.
We did a cruise ship excursion on this one. It was okay. It was a little hard to figure out what to do in this port. So one of the highlights was a bridge. I mean, it was a bridge. It was pouring rain. So we got out and took a picture of this bridge. It got better later on as we went to the Matsui
Matsue Castle.
Castle, cherry blossoms. It was really pretty. And then we went on our own when we got back. Another nice thing that Azamara does is they provide you many times free transportation into the main center of the city or the town, almost in every stop. So if you're not doing an excursion or anything pre-planned, you just can take that shuttle bus. And we did that. And we wanted to see the kind of this local manga artist that we heard about. I never really heard of him before, but it's really cool. Here's the bridge. So now you've seen the bridge. It's very fascinating overall. But more importantly, like we mentioned, of course, was the castle here.
Matsue Castle with all the beautiful cherry blossoms. What I'll say about that bridge is it kind of went viral online because from a certain angle, it looks like it's impossibly steep. So that's the kind of the attraction there. It's
Next up was another country. Part of the way these cruises work, you do dip into South Korea. And this was the first time ever for us in South Korea. It was only a day. We absolutely have to go back because we know we barely scratched the surface on South Korea. We're absolutely going to come back. And we went to Busan. This one, I believe we took a bus just really into the main part of Busan. And then I think we did a walking tour a little bit. And then they kind of cut us loose and we were able to go on our own and we, sought out our own lunch. Speaking of lunch, as you can see, we're all about the food. So this one we did on our own. There was nobody who guided us here because our Japanese ambassador took the day off in South Korea. But we found this really neat restaurant, Google reviews, went upstairs and had this massive feast. It was delicious. It was fresh. I think it was healthy and it was really quite good.
one thing Azamara does on their cruises are they have destination celebrations, and then once on the ship they'll have an As Amazing evening, the As Amazing celebration focusing on one destination. So on this cruise it was focused on South Korea. So it was really interesting because they brought in different performers. There were traditional dancers who performed the traditional fan dance, and had these taekwondo performers, and they put on a show for us as well. And that was really interesting.
The kids were great. They were so excited to be on the ship and performing, and the dancers were amazing as well. And something different because this was South Korea.
The next stop was the port of Kita, Kyushu, which in itself is a nice, lovely little area. But what we did was we took a train out to a town called Kokura to see this castle, Kokura Castle, which was very cool. Also, we were on a quest for ramen. Mark had found a place, and maybe it was our Japan ambassador had introduced us to this place. And so we went wandering through this little town until we found this tiny little ramen place. We wander upstairs. Nobody speaks English.
By the way, I'm taking credit for this ramen place. I found this ramen place.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, ambassador.
Kudos, bravo. They didn't understand much of what we said, but they knew that we were from Texas and they were very excited about that. So, but we got some great tonkotsu based ramen and it was just a lot of fun.
When we were leaving the port, this is Monica mentioned, we had fireworks for us. So again, making us feel really welcomed and a really special experience. And when we came back to the town, to the port, we also had a chance to walk around the local port. Many times you're in a lot of hours. That's another advantage with Azamara. They typically don't go in for just a few hours. Sometimes we'll get in early morning and we don't leave until late. We even overnight. We overnighted in
Kobe,
which we'll talk about in a moment. Sometimes, usually every cruise, at least once, you'll overnight somewhere. At least another time, you'll stay very late, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. So it gives you the opportunity to do some really neat things. Next up was Hiroshima. I went ahead and found a private guide on Viator for this one. And this was a pretty incredible experience. It was a private tour for just Monica and myself. We saw a lot there. We kind of have a little bit on the screen here. There is so much history, a lot of sad history, of course, as well. So it was a bit of a heavy day overall, but the guy did a great job of kind of balancing where they are now, what's happened now, what happened historically. So we really had great context from history, from the World War, as well to current times as well. I can say we really did enjoy Hiroshima, the people, despite the fact that obviously you're going back into a dark time in history.
we went to Miyajima, which is an island there, and it's got the famous Torii Gate that you can see here that's in the middle of the ocean. And there's also a huge shrine there that we toured around, just walked around this island. And then we went back to Hiroshima and we had a lunch, an okonomiyaki lunch, which is They have a special type of okonomiyaki there in Hiroshima, so we had that with our guide, and it's nice, they don't always sit and eat with you, so it was really nice to get to know him.
You make it at the table, which is kind of neat. They sort of put it down,
Yeah.
and then it's sort of cooking and finishing up at the table, and you got your little spatula, and you're,
Yeah,
taking your
chopstick.
pieces, your chopsticks, and we're all just kind of chatting, talking about his life, and obviously having a really great meal there as well. We finished up
At the Hiroshima Peace Memorial Park. Here we walked around. There's a variety of different sites there, like the bombed out
Atomic.
dome, and then a museum
Yeah.
that we walked through. And like Mark said, very heavy, but it's also good to reflect on this kind of thing.
It was definitely a really great special day, and we found this on Viator. I'll try to leave the link down below to the company that we used to arrange this. All right, so moving on, then our next port was Takamatsu. As you can see, we got to a lot of places in these 15 days. I mean, think about trying to get to all these places either by flying or by car or any other way. You can't do it any other way. Only a cruise ship gets you to all these places in 2 weeks.
Mhm.
We saw all these things. We went to a great garden. That was something we always try to seek out, is some walking, some steps. Japanese gardens are really amazing. It's outside. Cherry blossoms, of course, was something there as well. And then once again, food. We were seeking out the special Takamatsu style udon. The beautiful garden. I mean, this is one of Monica's pictures. You can see
Another beautiful garden in Hiroshima, too. They have beautiful gardens with the lake, the reflections, the paths, all the different plants, the cherry blossoms, and little bridges. They're so relaxing, and people love to just go and wander through these gardens.
And then, of
It's
course,
really
food.
nice.
We reward ourselves with food after walking a bunch of steps. We had some great udon. I think I prefer the udon in
The
which location?
Inaniwa udon,
Yeah, that
that was
was
the
really
one that was
special.
served cold.
I know, but it was just
Interesting.
normally I wouldn't like
This
that, but it
one,
was so good. Kobe was next, and Kobe we stayed overnight. It was a
mhm.
big city, but that's why Azamara decided to stop there overnight. Of course, we all know Kobe. We were absolutely going to have a Kobe beef lunch or dinner, which we did at a restaurant called Ashita, which I have on the screen there. Highly, highly recommend. It wasn't that unreasonable price wise when you're having Kobe beef in Kobe. Pretty special. I want to say it was something around $65 per person. It was a full multi-course lunch, and wow, that first bite,
Just melts in your mouth.
magical. The chef is right in front of you cooking it, and wow, melts in your mouth. It's indescribable. We basically had a lot of time over the 2 days, really day and a half. We just explored on our own. We walked a lot. Chinatown, the shopping streets. We had a cultural extra again, almost every stop. They would have some extra surprise experience for us. In this case, we had some local Japanese singers, had a performance.
The very last stop was Shimizu, which is in the south, not too far from Mount Fuji. Mount Fuji is very elusive. You can't always see it, but it's there. And so what we did was an excursion to some waterfalls, which were really beautiful. Here is the Shiraito waterfalls.
This one was very much of an outdoor experience. I remember going to the beach where you sometimes can see Mount Fuji. The odds aren't that great. We didn't see it from the beach, but the beach was a lot of fun, just kind of walking around and experience it. We did a ship tour with this one as well. We had onboard credit with Azamara. I forget exactly how much, but it was over $500 in onboard credit. And we have a video where we share with you how we get extra onboard credit rebated back. So we had money to spend. We didn't pay for out of pocket these short excursions, but we needed to spend the money. So we did it on a couple excursions, and it actually was a really good tour. In a nutshell, what the cruise was like, I mean, this was really memorable. Probably one of my favorite cruises ever. The combination of what we saw, the Japanese culture, the small ship experience, the fact that it was country intensive. You're not bouncing around to 4 or 5 different islands or locations or countries. That's an advantage as well. So most of the time, the ship's not even moving. If you have any kind of motion kind of issues, a lot less of that overall. The advantage of doing an intensive, you can see how much you can actually see. Azamara itself just does these kind of perfectly, I think, overall. So highly recommend considering an Azamara cruise. Cons with Azamara, we've talked about in other videos as well. I always sort of call it comfortable luxury, right? So that means it's not the most inexpensive. And in a moment, I'm going to give you some really good deals as well as some Azamara prices as well to sort of compare it a bit. But it's not going to be your cheapest cruises, but I think it's well worth it for what you pay. But you absolutely can spend less and you can spend way more. We like you to be comfortable and casual, and you'll definitely get that on Azamara. Hopefully, we've convinced you at least to consider it as one way to explore that amazing country. So let's go ahead and show you some of the offers that you can look into for 2025 and 2026 if this is something you want to consider. Let me show you some of the deals that I found. I want to start with Azamara first, since obviously we shared that experience with you. Number one thing to know is that they're going to be selling the Azamara Pursuit instead of the Azamara Journey into the region in 2025 and 2026. Understand also cherry blossom season tends to be very expensive. So my suggestion here really is to focus in on 2026. However, there is one sweet spot in 2025. Then the other ones I'm going to share with you in a moment from Holland America and Princess Cruises, but very similar itinerary for us. This is the sweet spot. This one goes out on April 20th, 2025. If you look on April 6th, it's 8,600 starting from per person. The reason being typically is because cherry blossom season is starting to get towards the end, but I believe in the north, you'll still be able to hit it. When we, as on our cruise, we had to wait till we got further south. More than likely further south, it'll be ending or over by then, but you can save a lot of money and still probably pick it up in the north. And it's a pretty substantial difference in price. This itinerary, as you can see, actually starts in Kobe and covers most of the different places that we were in, as well as a couple places we did not get to on our cruise. Just so you can see, per person per day, really with everything is $423 on an inside cabin. Obviously, if you do ocean view or balcony, it's going to be more, but we'll take a look at just inside cabin so we can compare the different deals. So that's about $846 for a couple per day. But remember how much this covers. This also includes your gratuity, your taxes, your port fees, and your cruise. That's obviously going to be a more expensive option. Now, if you're willing to go to 2026, you've got better options, in my opinion, because you can now do the earlier sailing on April 10th from a similar starting point, and I'll give you what that's going to cost you. And this one goes from Tokyo and ends up in Tokyo, and you can see the different ports here as well. And the one that I looked at here is the one going out April 10th, so a little bit earlier. And notice that the per person per day is now down to 366, meaning that your cabin total is 733. So if you're willing to wait till 2026, you can actually go earlier in April to increase your odds of cherry blossom and actually save some money as well. Now, let's look at some Princess Cruise options, because if you're looking for a lower price, this is going to be your best choice. We're actually going to be on this sailing. It's called the 10-day Golden Week Southern Islands. It's on the Diamond Princess. They have a lot of options on the Diamond Princess for Japan. So not just this cruise, you can find multiple different cruises in 2025 and 2026. This is a 10-day Southern Islands, because we're going to hit some spots that we didn't get to on our cruise. It's going to be some different locations. But you can see, because it's a bigger ship, we don't get into as many places. We have a few more sea days, but we're still going to hit some brand new places for us in Japan. Plus, this time we're going to go to Taipei, Taiwan, instead of South Korea. So you can see the per person per day is now down to $174 on Diamond Princess, meaning your per cabin is just $350, about half the price of what you'll find on Azamara. So again, if you need a more affordable alternative, this very much could be it. I wanted to show you this one as well, because if you want to do more, they can put together basically two 10-day itineraries, and this is a 20-day. This kind of covers a lot, as you'll see in a moment. So you have all the ports here, the one that we're doing, and then we come back around, and they'll end up doing some more here. In this case, you'll have Taiwan, you'll have South Korea, multiple locations in Japan. And again, for a 20-day, you're looking at $372 per day for the cabin overall, about half the price of the Azamara cruise as well. Different experience, I know. You're not going to get into as many places, may not be quite as customized and personalized, but if you're looking for good value, this is definitely a place to look. Let me go ahead and finish with a cruise on Holland America. Again, just to show you, you've got multiple alternatives here that can be quite reasonable. This one is in 2026, so you'll have to plan ahead a little bit on this one. But again, starting in Tokyo and going through multiple locations in Japan, also hitting South Korea, very similar to the one that we did. You'll see the pricing is under $400 for the whole cabin, and really not a huge leap up. If you want a balcony cabin, it's $530 per day. And again, let me remind you that includes everything that typically comes with a cruise, and that's why this can be a really good value. If you can plan further out, you will typically have more options available to you. We're going to go ahead and wrap up this video. Do me a favor, if you don't mind, please subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot. It motivates us every week. We'd love to share more deals in multiple different regions. So a few things: subscribe to the channel so you'll get those notifications. Give this video a thumbs up so we know these are the kind of videos you like to see. Reviews, deep dives, and also giving you some really good values as well as we do our research. And then leave your comments down below. Let us know what other regions you're interested in. We'll be more than happy to look at those and create some videos for you. All right, everybody. So thanks again for listening to the video, and we'll be back again soon.